3 days ago, a 29-minute film was released that went viral less than overnight. Spread through social networking sites, YouTube, and the mouths of a brand new wave of excited socially active teenagers, the video inspired, upset, activated, and supposedly informed a nation. I, however, couldn't help but noticing a few holes in the Invisible Children's video. The first was that it seemed too good to be true. The entire video was an appeal to emotion, and honestly, would have made me feel pretty bad about not going home, buying a $30 kit, then showing each of my friends on Facebook to do the exact same thing. This it would have done had I not taken a basic high school world history class and known anything about the Ugandan Civil War. Aside from their video being a highly glorified and one-sided overview of a very complicated Ugandan history, which I'll get to later, the Invisible Children is just about one of the shadiest corporations paying Central Africa, mainly because it is so one-sided. But, I suppose, they're still making more of a difference than I am. So where's all of this money going? To figure that out, I'd take a look at the Invisible Children's very own financial report. Of course, the money goes towards the bettering of the Ugandan population. A third of it, anyway. According to the report, a large majority of the donations, more than 62% generously, are going towards running the corporation with extraneous benefits. If it takes twice as much money running a supposedly non-profit organization as it does fighting a group of rebels such as Conies who are raping, murdering, mutilating, and forcing children and adults alike into a religious military force, maybe they aren't making as big of a difference as we thought they were. What exactly, though, is happening with the approximately 37% that is actually going to Africa? Looking at the IC's website, you won't find any specifics, but I do know that it's going to supporting the Ugandan government in tracking down and fighting Kony. Here's the kicker, Kony's not even in Uganda anymore. In fact, he left 5 years ago, and the LRA has been in rapid decline in Uganda since 2006. Most of the impact felt by the LRA right now is in surrounding countries. We don't even know where Kony is. But why then are we paying the Ugandan government? Because we can't just go in and build schools and personally deliver all of the resources to what the Invisible Children recognize in their video as essentially a dangerous war zone under the reign of a religious extremist, Joseph Kony. No, unless we have a few minutes to take a quick profile picture. Holding the guns with the Sudan People's Liberation Army. The biggest issue in paying the Ugandan government, though, isn't even the fact that Kony isn't on their land anymore, or necessarily causing a current perpetual problem for the nation. It's that paying the Ugandan government is like paying the rough equivalent of Joseph Kony himself. The Kony 2012 video is doing more harm than help in the sense that it informs people only of the atrocities of the Lord's religious army, but says nothing of the longest and one of the most brutal civil wars in Africa that it was a part of. This morning, Uganda called out the anti-Kony campaign for being so biased via the Associated Press and the Washington Post. According to the article, Ugandans criticized that the 30-minute viral video misrepresents the complicated history of Africa's longest-running conflict, and that Kony is originally waging war against the Ugandan army whose human rights record had been condemned as brutal by independent observers. Wait, what? The Ugandan government has a human rights record so poor that Kony sparked his movements in the first place. Why then are we paying a government with a recent history of corruption to fight an army with a corrupt cause? To give you a little more information about the Civil War than IC's Kony 2012 did, the current president of Uganda, and I apologize ahead of time, I'm going to butcher this name, but Yoweri Museveni, was in charge of a rebellion group much similar to Joseph Kony's without the same intense religious drive. The disorganized National Resistance Army that Museveni led was often committing the same horrors to the Alkali people that Joseph Kony was committing to the Ugandans up until 5 years ago. In the end, though, Museveni's NRA won the first portion of the Ugandan Civil War, the Ugandan Bush War, against the support of a fair amount of the Alkali people they'd been oppressing. As Museveni is now the president of Uganda, many members of the NRA now run the government and make up the National Ugandan Army. Strangely enough, though, the voluntary part of the Lord's Resistance Army is filled mostly by the Alkali people, and Joseph Kony is a part of the Alkali tribe himself. In fact, Museveni's army's brutal human rights record was one of the triggers that Kony's uprising was started in response to. By no means am I saying that what Joseph Kony is doing is right. In fact, I can agree that it's disgusting, dehumanizing, and horrific. But so is war, and despite the beliefs of Invisible Children, we fight wars through mediation and cultural understanding, not taking sides. What we have here is called propaganda. On another note, I was greatly confused by something on the IC's website. If anyone has a better understanding to this than I do, and could further explain it, that'd be greatly appreciated. I decided to check out the website to see what they are directly going to do with donations to bring the children home. I found their 5-step approach to the issue, but was greatly puzzled by the step where they actually do something. Apparently, they were planning to lead children home by sending messages via flyer and FM radio broadcasts, telling them how to safely defect and return home. My question is how on a public radio, intended to reach as many forced LRA members as possible, not one person who's doing the forcing is going to hear it or see a flyer? Wouldn't any murderer, rapist, or recruiter have access to the same FM radio and be able to find out exactly where these children are going and kill or mutilate them for trying to escape? Upon clicking details, the only clarification I received was that this was going to cost $380,000 to make these broadcasts. In my eyes, unless someone can clarify this for me, that's $380,000 being donated to the potential killing of the kids we're trying to save by paying Invisible Children. Personally, I feel that there are other ways to better spend our money. If you want to make a difference, there are many other corporations you can donate your money to that are much more deserving of your dollar, such as Red Cross, UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, or the Million Bones Project. If you want to specifically help with the Kony conflict, you can lobby, write letters, make petitions, get signatures, anything you want to do to get a specific task done. You can make a difference without buying kits and bracelets from a campaign that may not have the same solutions as you in mind. There are two sides to every story, and if you're thinking about donating to Invisible Children after watching their video, I plead that you do so after a little bit of research first. Consider that only 1/3 of your donation will be going towards any cause, and that cause isn't the right one. Unless, of course, your donation is intended to fuel a side of the Ugandan Civil War. And make sure you know the reason for doing so. Consider that this war is a 25-year-long effort, and that you should know both sides before getting involved in the first place. Consider that Joseph Kony is no longer in Uganda, that the LRA has moved on to neighboring countries. The video took advantage of the fact that most of America is uninformed, and that the creators could therefore make any alibi they wanted as to what was actually going on. They could educate and raise a country, essentially, as long as they could emotionally affect the intended audience, young sheep America. And they made them feel as if they were part of the solution, when actually they were donating to a cause of the problem. I simply want to educate people as to the other side. To ensure I'm not doing the same thing, though, I ask you to please not take my word for it. Research any sources you want to any part of the issue. Check out the financial reports of the Invisible Children and the testimonies of the Ugandans on the problem. Keep up with the civil war in Uganda and wars involving the LRA in Africa. Inform yourself, and then make your own decision. Thank you for your time.